Today we have two members of our customer success team with us who will be running you through this webinar. Okay, we can begin. Yes, so we have Lisa and Amir. Lisa, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Lisa Baiba. I am a customer success manager with Reconstruct. I've been with Reconstruct for the last few months. In the past, I've worked for a construction company for about 6 years as a project engineer, and I'm really excited about the improving processes in construction and communications in construction.
Awesome,
Great.
thanks, Lisa.
There you go.
So my name is Amir Hamawi. I'm the Director of Customer Success and Operations here at Reconstruct. I've been here for almost 2 years now. Had a pretty long career in construction and construction tech, and very excited to talk to you a little bit today about the project lifecycle and how Reconstruct adds value in every phase from start to finish. But more specifically, looking at our multi-site customers and smaller projects with many projects. So I'm going to jump right in. I'll kind of get us kicked off here, and then Lisa will talk about a few examples in the middle, and then I'll end it. Okay, so let's start off with kind of the basics here, just in case anyone isn't too familiar with Reconstruct and what we do here. We strive to improve construction and also any part of the project lifecycle from start to finish, benefiting both owners and general contractors. We essentially bring the project site to the decision makers, and we do that by bringing together three main things: reality capture, which can be thought of, what's happening at the project site; the design of that particular project, whether they just be simply 2D drawings or 3D BIM, and also bringing in schedule to make sure that the project will be delivered on time, on budget. And we essentially answer one question over and over and over again, which is what is there versus what should be there. So what you see here in this image on kind of the right-hand side is a blended view that Reconstruct delivers for our projects, showing the BIM, a 360 image, and the measurable model as well. So we deliver this pretty consistently for many customers across the globe in all industries. But today we're going to kind of be focused on multi-site construction, meaning that there's many of a similar type of project. If you think of retail or store development, whether it be for the restaurant industry or various other retail, this is what we're talking about. I'm not going to read through all 9 of these kind of challenges here, but from working with our customers, I will say that the one thing that really kind of hits home is that these are complex in a different way, but mostly due to scale and the fact that there's many projects. And with any project, there's multiple stakeholders involved, whether they be the actual builders, the store development, senior management, whether they be the owner operators of these stores, but they all need to come together in order for these projects to be delivered. And it's just impractical to physically send everyone to all these sites. So one of our core values here is really to kind of bring everyone together virtually so that they can kind of see their project and meet some of these challenges head on. So we're going to talk a lot about the project life cycle today and kind of break it down into the 5 key ones: the plan, design, construct, commission, and operate. So for each one of these, when you think about kind of the planning phase, what's beneficial? Really, you want to understand your site, whether it's a greenfield or a brownfield, and then whether or not you can get there, having a virtual walkthrough of that or to understand what your facility has before you get started is pretty important. In the design phase, you're looking to bring in those site conditions, whether you are taking over an existing building or whether you're creating something from scratch, and bringing this design to a place where it's measurable, and then you can build off of it and to do interior fit outs can be very useful, especially with BIM. In the construction phase, where Reconstruct kind of got started, but has a lot of applicability in the construction execution. The main value here, again, is going to be able to be remote. So you can do 2 key things. One is to monitor the progress of construction, and also to ensure that you're meeting the quality that is expected, both from the GC and from the owner. And the commissioning phase, this is where you're trying to take it to the end. There's a lot of small things that tend to need to be closed out. This involves, typically a punch list, but it also is, you're not just handing over the physical asset, you're also going to be handling over a virtual asset with all the drawings and design elements. Finally, it finally gets to the owner, even though they may have been very intimately involved in all the process 4 phases before this. Now it's going to be time to really kind of maintain that asset for its life cycle. And the best way to do that is to kind of maintain a digital version of it. And so we'll talk a little bit about that too. So starting off with the planning phase, the key thing here with Reconstruct is the ability to go out and quickly capture your site. We have many forms of reality capture that we are able to use, but one of the primary ones is to go out with a 360 camera, walk the site, and then send those images to Reconstruct for processing to create a model from that. So here we have a gentleman, he's walking, he's got the 360 camera on his hard hat, and he's simply just walking the site with his smartphone in order to capture it. Now, what can you do with that? So this is a top-down view of a capture of a very, it's kind of like a flagship store. It's got a few more nuanced things to it. On the right-hand side, you see part of a gas station, in the middle, a parking lot, then you see the store kind of in the center. There's the drive-through, and this one also has a car wash. So with 360, you're able to walk the entire site and capture everything, indoors, outdoors, and then create a reality map of that to understand, the full site layout. Now, a capture of this size probably takes about an hour or so to walk all of it. But what you see here on your screen will be available for everyone later that day, including all of the imagery. Now, what can you do with this? Essentially, these are measurable models because Reconstruct is creating a model from it. And you can measure, up to sub-inch accuracy with 360 cameras. And this is useful because there may be things that there aren't any design drawings for, or you may just have photographs that in and of themselves would be just pictures. But here you can do measurability from distances from left to right. And you can also measure in 3D. So that HVAC unit on the left-hand side here, you can see you can measure the base, the width, and the height to understand the overall size of your particular units and where they're located and all of the hookups for it to really assess whether or not this unit needs replacement, whether it's old. But using traditional methods, you may go out and snap a few photos. So this is still applicable, but we don't just use those photos and store them on a hard drive. You're able to kind of place where they were taken. So on the left, you see these triangle images indicating where they were taken. But you also have the dates that they were taken as well, along with the close-ups of all the details. So when you do a facility assessment, there's various areas that need specific focus, and this is another way to do that. Bringing in the design drawings. Now, for this particular case, the customer was interested in updating the drawings that they had, but they weren't sure whether or not there were changes done to this facility over time because they didn't explicitly keep track of it. Here you can see from the 360 capture on the right, with the ortho photo on the left, or the reality map, shows that the coffee island was significantly larger than what was actually on the design drawing from a historical perspective. And so they went in essentially to quickly do a capture in less than an hour of the whole site in order to go update all their drawings so that they can understand what kind of future work would need to be done and to bring this store up to its current standards. So real takeaway here that you can capture and share within minutes to effectively plan and have an overall complete view of your site. Next, we're going to move on to design. So I'll pass it to Lisa to take it from here.
Hi, everyone. As Amir mentioned, there are typically 2 scenarios for the development. It could either happen for the new construction where the existing field needs to be integrated into the site conditions. And another way is the renovation of the existing property or upgrades that needs to happen. And that's where Reconstruct comes really handy for scanning the space, and that space can later be converted into BIM. And we can go on the next slide through the potential workflows and examples. If you could click on the next slide. Thank you. Right here on the right-hand side, you can see the workflows, potential workflows. It starts with a capture of the space, existing building or space that can be using Reconstruct converted into the reality model. Later, that reality model shown in the center can be converted into a BIM model that the designers can build using the point cloud model that we generate using the videos, 360 videos, or it can go another way. It can happen bottom up. The BIM model can be created to build a building, and then we can do the capture of the existing space that was built using the BIM model and generate the actual images. On the next slide, you can see an example of generating plan views using the BIM models. So for example, somebody goes to the existing building, they do the capture, they generate the point cloud, of 3D model point cloud that was used for the creation of the BIM model. And that BIM model is used to create plan views. Later, we can use plan views to overlay with the point cloud that's generated and the 2D ortho that's been generated to verify the conditions and make sure everything is right. Reconstruct always tries to listen to our customers' feedback, and several users love the reality floor maps and they wanted to look up. The next beta feature to allows to create similar orthos for ceiling. Here's the one example. Drawing was created from the 3D BIM model that was created from reality model, and the drawing then was validated by overlaying with the reality after. However, these drawings can be created from the 2D ortho directly if that's preferred. The takeaway here is the reality mode can be used as a baseline for design. Well, after the design is done, it's time for construction for multi-site projects when the construction could be happening simultaneously at different parts of the continent or even planet. It's challenging to be in person at all of those locations to monitor the progress. This is when having access to all of the job sites on one platform could be very instrumental to say, like with saving time and money. Reconstruct makes it easy to walk through the progress of the project without leaving your chair or your office space or wherever you're working from. From one video, the software can generate the point cloud 3D model of the space and ortho plan with the view that can be easily overlaid with the design documents and shop drawings to verify the accuracy and completeness of the construction project. And on the next slide, I can go through some of the examples. Here's for example, the reflective ceiling plan of the space that was overlaid with the ceiling ortho plan that was generated from the 360 video that somebody captured on site. We can quickly and easily assess the installation, the ductwork, and verify that against the plan. We can see that in this specific situation, there was a slight deviation from the design, probably 2 feet off, but having ortho plans, you can later generate as-built drawings. In my experience, doing this kind of assessment out in the field was a bit more challenging. I would have to make sure I have my iPad with all of the drawings loaded, or I have my drawings printed out. I have my measuring tape ready to go and measure everything. But with Reconstruct, you can just walk the site with the camera, capture everything, go back to your desk and see right there where things are, where the elements are located, and make sure they're in the right place. On the next slide, we can go over next example. Here's the overlay of the roof. And you can see that the walking pads, when you go over the plan, the walking pads were not that well visible, even though they were shown on the plan view. So in order to take a closer look, you can click on the camera and open the photo of that space to verify, oh yeah, the walking pads were actually installed, but they didn't seem to adhere properly to the roof. So you probably would want to make sure that your team is aware of this, and you can use our markup tool to notify the team. And you can also, you can highlight, you can paint on there, you can add notes that you can later either text to your team members or email to your team members. And takeaway here is that Reconstruct makes it really easy to share the project with anyone, and it helps with improvement of communication and transparency of the construction process. Once the construction is close to completion, it's time for the commissioning process, which is process of assuring that all of the systems and components of buildings are designed, installed, tested, operated, and maintained according to the operational requirements of the owner or final client. Reconstruct allows to create a punch list and document as build conditions before the space gets occupied and starts operating. On the next slide, I can go over some examples how this can be taken care of. In my past experience, creating punch lists would require some prep work. I would have to make sure that all of my drawings are arranged and ready, and I have them either downloaded on my iPad or have them printed so I can walk the site and make markups and create punch lists what needs to be taken care of. In this case, you don't even need to travel to the job site. You can just walk through the job site virtually and create punch lists right here, and have access anytime, at any moment, walk through the job site, create points, pins with description what's wrong. And once that's done, you can distribute that using two methods. One method, you can download your punch list and images and send that digitally to your team members, or you can invite your team members to Reconstruct, and all of them will have access and scroll through the punch list and click through locations and make any comments. That's one of the workflows, or two workflows, that we offer. On the next slide, we have a specific example where the vice president of construction of fast food chains was reviewing or virtually walking through the project of the several projects in the US that were ready to be commissioned. And he wanted to make sure that the following things were happening: that the signage looked good, that the adherence to brand standards was happening, and that the project was ready to be signed off. And something that he noticed that I don't know if you guys see, but it's clearly that the flange was missing at the drain on the floor. And once that specific issue was taken care of, the project was ready for the commissioning, or ready for operations. And that's where Amir will take over.
Thanks, Lisa. I appreciate you going through the kind of the core section of the project lifecycle there. So I'll finish this off by talking about kind of the operation phase. Now, I wanted to kind of pick, we're talking about multi-site, and with multi-site, you may be thinking of like a 7-Eleven here, McDonald's there, all over the nation. But multi-site can also mean that you have many little projects within kind of the same larger mega project. And so here we're kind of looking at kind of some EV stations where there's 5 different stations at a particular mall. And this is very useful because you can essentially go out, and I think each one of these takes like less than 5 minutes to go capture, but you're able to kind of place all 5 of them on a map, and then to be able to go and review it. And then this one, there was, still photos taken, there's some 360, a little bit of inspection work as well. So this operation phase, has a lot of different ways to kind of think about it, but essentially the owner wants to maintain their asset for whoever the customers are who are going to go to it. So one kind of phase that has to do with kind of maintenance, and this may happen routinely as part of any process to make sure things are going on. But where Reconstruct can kind of add value is to have a full visualization of all the changes that may happen over time. And so here you just kind of see two images. One is, before it was fully opened and commissioning was not complete because the painting on the parking spots hasn't been completed yet, even though the equipment has been installed. And then later on in the year, when the sun is shining and the trees are starting to bloom, you can see that this is, fully occupied and operational. So these things, any unit may need regular maintenance, or it could get damaged for one reason or another. And if it does need to be fixed, if there's a kind of any sort of sensor that says, hey, we need to go check this out, you can go and send someone on site. But when they do that maintenance, you can have a full recording of everything that took place. So most likely people are taking images already, which is fully expected, but to have that spatially oriented along with all the other stations is where you're really going to have some additional value here. Talking a little bit again about inspection, the inspections don't necessarily have to happen by inspectors. You can just send someone out to do a capture, and then you can have that be a remote inspection. So you could do these inspections virtually. And sometimes, you may not need to get in places that don't have typical captures. So a lot of time people kind of compare 360 images to Google Street View, especially when you see these, they look very familiar. But Google Street Car, those cars don't go around all the time. And so you can go out, your company can go out, or anyone can go out and do these captures and capture spaces that you may not have that free kind of service to go leverage on. So here you can see both indoors and outdoors of a particular space with some markups. So kind of the takeaway here for operation and maintenance, if you use Reconstruct through the entire project lifecycle, you are able to go back anywhere and at any time. And then as you kind of move forward in the operation phase, you're able to keep that digital version of your project up to date. All right, so let's recap here. So when you think about the project lifecycle and then how Reconstruct can add value here, you can think about kind of the Reconstruct project lifecycle. And in our customer success team, where we see Lisa as one of our CSMs, we always start off our projects thinking about, how are we going to add value to a process that's in place for projects throughout the life cycle. So just to recap, on the planning phase, to go out and capture and understand what's there. So that you can then enter into the design phase and leverage that reality model, either as a baseline for your design or to understand how your design is going to fit into your existing site. On the construction side, in addition to progress monitoring, quality control, and all these other kind of, I would say, key workflows, what I've observed is just the ability to share the project with everybody and improving communication and transparency. It just goes a really long way. Because everyone kind of has a different perspective. They come from different backgrounds. They look at assets in different ways depending on their area of expertise. So delivering the model to everybody just has a lot of value here. We talked about commissioning, creating punch lists and to be able to validate those remotely. And then of course, ending up here is having your complete view of your project with the full time history from anywhere. At any time allows you to really have a good operational model. And there's more nuances, there's more devils than the details for all of this stuff. But hopefully Lisa and I have provided everyone attending a nice overview of how we view Reconstruct adding value in the project lifecycle for store development and multi-site. So thank you very much. And I think I saw some questions pop in there. So welcome Summer back. She can ask what these questions are and I'll do my best to answer them.
Yes, yeah. Our first question was, what's the accuracy of the measurement?
Yeah, that's actually a very, very, very common question. So I'm glad we'll hit that front and center. So in general, the accuracy of any reality model is going to be dependent on the type of capture. So there's many different ways you can go capture. You can capture with laser scanning, which can provide you with millimeter accuracy. You can capture with drones or smartphone, which can give you centimeter or better. Or you can capture with 360, which can give you less than an inch. But also sometimes people capture very large sites, so they'll walk in a straight line over a mile. And, you know, over those distances, your tolerances are going to increase just due to the type of capture it is. What we typically do is we talk to our customers and ask what their expectations are, so you pick the right type of capture to get the results that you're looking for. Also with any capture, you know, even if you have the most sophisticated equipment, it has to do about how you go get a good capture, right? So it's not just enough to have equipment that has certain tolerances. It's important to know how to use that too.
Great. Thanks, Amir. Another question came through. How quickly can a project get started?
I'll let Lisa answer that one. I think you're still on mute. There you go.
Okay, yeah, it depends on the size of the project, depends on how much information you have available, but it would take from a couple of minutes to a couple of hours. If you have a large model to upload, if you have existing drone captures, if you have a schedule that needs to be linked to the model, that could take a couple of hours. But if the project is fairly small and you have just a small drone capture or small capture, a couple of drawings, it's going to take a couple of minutes.
Great.
Great.
All right. We have a few more questions. I think we have time for one more. Someone's asking, you know, how much does it cost to get started with Reconstruct?
Yeah, always a great question. Everyone wants to know how much it costs. So I think at first I'll say, Summer, can you drop in a link to a demo if you're interested in learning more? This would help connect you with our sales team, and also our CS team. I help with the demos from time to time to really kind of learn more about what the overall value is. So cost is kind of dependent on a few factors, of course. It depends on the size of the project and the duration. But it's very affordable if you consider the cost savings that you have with travel, and also just the mitigation from any sort of claims resolution. We found that, you know, our cost is, you know, very attractive to a wide range of customers, whether they do small projects or big projects, whether they're in civil infrastructure or building construction. So if you're really interested, you know, reach out to our team and we'll answer that question more specifically based off of what project you're working on.
Great. Yeah. We have a few more questions, but I believe we are running a little low on time. I'm happy to respond to some of these via email that came through, but also if you check the chat, we have the link for the demo as well. And so you are welcome to fill out that form and we will reach out to you and show you, you know, how it might work for your projects as well. So yeah, thank you all for attending. I will be sending a recording of this webinar to everyone via email, and you can share it with anyone on your team, and feel free to reach out if you want the demo. Thank you, Lisa and Amir. I appreciate your time today. All right.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
everyone.
Lisa. And thank you everybody for attending.